What up, Facebook? How are you guys doing? I'm so excited to see you tonight. I'm just sitting here and we are going to tag some friends in this. And as we begin, do our obligatory sharing of things and inviting some of your friends out. I know some of you guys are on the West Coast listening and you are at 7 p.m. But then some of you guys are on the East Coast and it is 10 o'clock this evening. So all things are well, all things are good. Wherever you are in the world, welcome. We're so glad that you're here with us. And as I do some invitings and some stuff, we are going to get started. Let me know if you're here. Let me know where in the world are you from? Because I know that, again, I'm from Orlando, sitting here in Florida. I'd like to see where some of you guys are from, see if we have any international people with us. So I see some of you guys are joining. So glad to see you, Lori. So glad to see you, Edith. Tristan, my buddy, how you doing, friend? So just go ahead and throw it out there. Tell me, say hello if you're just joining in with us. I want this to be as interactive as possible, to be able to ask questions, talk about it. I've decided to take this to throw it out to 3 days as opposed to one, because originally this was going to be a one-day post, but we're going to do it 3 because I want to be able to give you the most value and to give you the most up-to-date, accurate stuff to help your life be the best it can. We've been focusing on deepening relationships. We've been focusing on deepening, love life, friendships, things like that. There's going to be some other stuff coming up next week, but right now, today's topic is how to thrive. How to thrive in a tough relationship. Laurie, glad to see you. Stuart, Florida. I'm glad you're doing well, Tristan. My name is Jim. For you guys who don't know me, some of you guys have seen me around. I'm a pastor, have been a pastor for a number of years, about 15 years in ministry, last 8 or so years actually pastoring. So I have a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge and experience that I come from. My own life, let me just give you a little starter, any little things. You hear me talk about it. I come from a place where I was damaged as growing up in certain respects. Dad left me when I was 4, and I've got a spotty past of where I had these issues and things. My sister got a brain tumor. I had no friends growing up. So there's a lot of issues in my damage. And then I married the most beautiful woman in the world. But with everything, we all have challenges. And my beautiful wife, who is an angel, she struggles with mental illness. So there's all sorts of backgrounds that we have and all sorts of things. This is some of my background in the place that I come from. And within the wealth of experience and how to thrive in a tough relationship, because our relationship, as good as it is, we do have a very tough relationship at times. But I also come back from an experience of being able to coach, being able to speak, and those things for many, many years. And so when we look at this stuff, we are looking at this from a great place. But that's who I am. I've been going around kind of calling myself a ninja strategist because I am in love with martial arts. I do Wing Chun, trying to get back into it. And I figured we're going to ninja hack your life. So that's what we're doing. And I'm also, if you see my big flash symbol here, I am a comic book nerd. I love all comic books. And if you ever want to join in a conversation about that, hit me up. And let's have a good talk about some of the things happening in the comic book world. But let's just get started. If you do me a big favor, as you're joining in this, will you hit the share button and let people know that you're here, let people know that you're tuning in, because again, we want to make sure that we add the most value that we add, and we allow people to understand where we're coming from and what's going on. Thank you guys for those who have joined. So again, hit the share button. If you at any point have questions, have thoughts, I want those in the comments. I will answer every single one of them. If you're in replay land, hashtag quote unquote replay land, still hit me up in the comments with your questions. I will, if I don't answer them at that point, I will acknowledge them and answer them at another live. But the first thing I got to talk about is we're going to give practical steps, practical thoughts on tough relationships. So let's first go in and define a tough relationship, because there are relationships that are just difficult. And so, hey, what's going on, Travis? Glad to see you joining us. There's relationships that are just difficult, and it could be your spouse, it could be your fiance, it could be your brother, mother, sister, uncle, all those things. That doesn't make the relationship tough? What makes it tough is they're dealing with something or some challenge that's incredible. Now, some of you guys have relationships where there's alcohol present or drugs that are present. Some of you guys have relationships where there is somebody who is very damaged. Maybe you're that person that's damaged, where they lived with a very spotted past and they never found healing. And there's a lot of damage in that. Some of you guys that may be in a similar situation like I am, where in our relationship, there's mental illness present, and it can be tough. So we got to understand that tough relationships are when things, now first and foremost, things aren't always going to go hunky-dory. You're not always going to have rainbows. I mean, that's just the nature. But then there's added challenges to your life and your relationships that make them really tough. Like when you want to give up, you have to find it in you to keep pushing because you don't get your needs met. You're not getting your what you need taken care of. You're having to take on more than you really bargained for. You're having to, push harder than you really should have. You're having to, it's supposed to be a joining of two people if you're married or in a relationship and in finance, fiance. It's supposed to be two people, but you find you're the only one doing it, and the weight is so heavy and your shoulders are slumped and the stress is so high. And those are tough relationships because the one thing you want to say or one thing you see is people are like, how do you continually do this when you're under so much stress, when you're under so much things? And especially if you're in a relationship where they're abusive or let me say this, let me give you a public service announcement. Stop. Let's take a time out. Public service announcement. Number one, if you're in an abusive relationship or you have domestic violence present, you need to stop and get help immediately. That's something you don't play with. That's something you don't hang out with. That's something you don't justify in your life. Emotional abuse, physical, sexual, mental abuse, and domestic violence is stuff that you don't play with. Okay? So you get help immediately. You get out of there. If you need to, have a safety plan. That is, don't play with that. Don't even try to play with that, because those people need extra help, and we got to love them. But here's the deal, is you can't be in the midst of that. So again, if you have abuse or domestic violence, then you need to stop right there and you need to head out, and you have to be able to leave that situation. But I'm talking about some situations where you're having a rough time. You're having a challenging time. Let's look at the internal clock. Maybe inside your heart, you're like, man, I love this person, but dude, I want to leave. Or maybe you're sitting there and you're like, man, I truly want this to work, but I don't know how to make this work, and I'm about to give up. Those are tough relationships. When you're trying to make it work and all you're getting back is the issue. Hey Michelle, good seeing you. Is those issues where they're downgrading you or something, and you're trying to make it work, and you're like, what do I do from here? Those are the issues in the relationships that I'm talking about. So let me give you the number one tip I'm going to give you tonight, the only tip I'm giving you tonight that you're going to work this week to put in your life, because on Wednesday, I'm giving you the second tip, and on Friday, I'm giving you the third tip, and then I'm going to give you a specific thing that I'm going to offer you guys that you and I are going to banter back and forth. So here's the deal. So the first thing is, the only tip I got for you tonight, are you ready for this? Don't internalize their issue. Don't internalize their issue. Did you hear what I said? Don't internalize their issue. Don't make their issue your issue. Okay? You're not meant to carry the burden of their issue. You're meant to help them. You're meant to pray for them. You're meant to go through it with them at times if you're married. But don't make their issue your issue. I've been talking to a lot of people lately, and there's been people who, as a matter of fact, I had 3 conversations in the last 2 days where there was alcohol present, there was other things present there, and drugs. There's also conversation about mental illness and things. And the deal is that one of the common threads in here, it's my responsibility, it's my fault, I have to be better so that they can get better. That is a lie. You're internalizing their issue if you have that, if you're dealing with that. That's internalizing their issue. You're making their problem your problem, which already adds to the toughness of what you're going through. And here's the thing, you cannot carry their issue. They have to do it for themselves. If you go to AA, if you go to NA, all those meetings, the very first thing they tell you is that they have to admit they have a problem, right? And then they go through it, and then one of the other steps and things as they go through it is to take personal responsibility for their issues. You cannot take responsibility for someone else's issues. It is not yours. Please hear me when I say that. It is not your issue. So you can't take responsibility. Number two, it's not your fault that they're doing what they're doing. Now, sometimes we want to say, well, it's my fault, I'm just doing something wrong. But that speaks to something that happened in your childhood. Maybe you weren't taken care of. Maybe you were abandoned. Maybe you were rejected. Maybe you were abused as a kid. And you're sitting there thinking that the current issue you're in is all your fault. Unless you're some sort of jerk that just likes to make people miserable, chances are it's not your fault. Matter of fact, one of the things that I tell people often is that, hey, be careful when people are angry, because we like to say it's my fault they're angry, when the truth of the matter is they could be angry at the color of the paint on the walls. But we internalize it and we cause so much stress in our life because of our insecurities and our self-worth that we're sitting there like, well, they're angry at this and it's my problem, my fault. And then what happens is we're assuming where the blame is being placed, and they could be off in la la land doing something else, thinking of something else. But the deal is, guys, and that's the problem, is we're insecure and we have no self-worth. So their issue is their issue. You can walk through it with them. You can pray with them. You can carry them through it. So you have those things. But what you cannot do is internalize their issue. The second thing is it's not your fault that they have that. A lot of times these guys had it long before you, and they'll have it long after you. They had it when they were in childhood. But you and I have to be able to be strong enough not to say, okay, this is my fault that they're doing this. This is my problem that they're doing this. No, it's their issue. You take responsibility. If you're adding to their problem because you have some emotional damage in you, so they're out there doing their thing and you're very emotionally damaged and you're acting out on that damage and it's creating issues that are worse, you take responsibility for what you have done, and then you allow them to take responsibility for what they have done. Because if you take responsibility for you and them, then guess what happens? You're now enabling the behavior, and you don't want to enable. So that's my tip, and I'm going to give you a couple practicals. I'm a big practical guy. So here's the deal. The only tip I got for you tonight is don't internalize someone's issues. Don't internalize someone's issues. So the practical steps towards working towards that, because here's what I believe, that the more self-worth and the more security we have in ourselves, the less likely we're going to internalize somebody else's stuff. Do you hear that? Because we are riddled with insecurity, we're riddled with self-doubt, we're riddled with self-worth. So when we work on us and we build us up, what happens is we are inevitably closing that door and saying, these individuals can't speak that lies into me, can't speak that hurt into me, because I'm okay with me. So in order to not internalize things, you've got to work on your self-worth and your insecurities. Okay, well, the next question is, how do I do that? Well, that's a great question. And remember, if you have any questions, hit them up in the comments, share the video. But here's the deal. How do I work on self-worth? Number one thing I go to is we root out the lie of why you believe what you believe. We get in there and we root out the lie of why you believe what you believe. And then we replace it with the truth. So if you believe that you weren't worthy of love, well, that's a lie. You deserve love. You are worthy of love. So we've got to root that lie out, and then we've got to put the truth in, is that you are lovable, you are able, and you are worthy of love. And then how do I do this? I call it the mirror challenge. Is we go in front of the mirror and we say that affirmation. We denounce that lie, that I'm not worthy, that lie that we believe, and we start saying, I like me, I love me, I am worthy to be loved. And you start replacing the truth. And I'm going to tell you, that mirror is unforgiving. And it's going to hurt at first. If you have a deep insecurity and deep self-worth, it's going to hurt. But I'm going to tell you, on the other end of that, it's going to be the best building for you, because you're telling yourself that you are worthy of love that takes care of self-worth. You're telling you that you're able to accomplish those goals. That takes care of that insecurities. So you've got to be able to build that up, because the first tip is that you do not want to internalize someone's issue. It's all right, Tam, that you're late. It's cool. Dinner and family are always a priority, but you're going to want to watch the replay, so you're going to hit back at replay land. But I will ask, please share this as we go on. But here's the thing. So we're just talking about the number one tip is do not internalize others' issues. That's how you thrive in a tough relationship. And the deal is that you're building self-worth and we're building security. That's what's going to help you, because the more self-worth and the more security that you build up, the less likely you're going to internalize their issues. Now, I'm a faith-based guy. I make no apologies for that. I started this conversation with saying I've been a pastor and ordained for a long time. I find my truth in the Bible. You may be somebody who doesn't like organized religion. That's okay. You may be somebody who's far from God. No judgment here. But here's the deal. I believe in the Bible. I believe in absolute truth. And guess what? If you're dealing with self-worth, there's a Bible scripture that talks about that. If you deal with insecurity, there's a Bible scripture that talks about that. Because you were so loved and you were so cherished and God gave you gifts. So if you're struggling to find truth and you can't find it within yourself, let's start a conversation of where the absolute truth is, that I believe so, and let's start looking to replace those lies with that truth. Because the deal is you don't want to internalize people's issues. Now let me end with this, because this is where I'm going to kind of slow it down and call it a night and meet you again on Wednesday night. Here's the deal. Many of us know we have insecurities. We know we have self-worth issues, but we don't know where they come from. We don't know what's going on. But we know we want to, and we're frustrated because we're like, why can't I do that? Why can't I get over that? If that's you, hit me up in the comments, let me know, give me some thumbs, give me some likes, whatever. And just you go to the places and you're like, why can't I figure out what's wrong with me? Why am I always hitting these walls? Well, here's what I'm going to do for you. In the comments, I'm going to throw two things in there. I'm going to invite you into my group, which is going to be, it's called The Gathering. It's where once we get this thing going, it's going to be a group to have these intimate conversations in a safe environment and build community. So I'm going to invite you into my group. I want you in there. I want to build this community. If you're somebody who's just going to be like one of those trolls, hang out, not engage, community's not for you. Okay? If you're somebody who's going to share people's secrets, community's not for you. But if you're somebody who says, you know what, I want to get in there, I want to build relationship with people, that community is for you. The second thing, here's the deal. On Friday, I'm going to give you a really cool offer, so you got to watch each of the videos. I'm going to give you a really cool offer on Friday, but I'm going to give you something, I'm going to give you a caveat today. If you're somebody who says, I cannot figure out my root issue, where I'm having the problems and where they stem from, I want you to jump on a call with me. It's a free call. You guys know that I'm coaching now, and I'm speaking, and I'm writing. I want you to jump on a call with me, and I'm going to guarantee that within the first 30 minutes of our call, we're going to get to at least one of your root issues that you can start using to affirm yourself. I'm going to guarantee it, because I believe that with the right questions and a little intuition and some honesty, that you can root out this issue, and that you can live the life you wanted to live, and you can take off those limitations in your business, in your life, in your relationships, and go at the speed that you were meant to go. Guys, I love each and every one of you. You guys, I'm so glad that you guys are here. I'm not kidding. Hop on that call with me. Join the group with me. Do not miss part 2. Part 1 was about not internalizing. Part 2 is going to be a lot more practical, and you're gonna love it. Do me a favor. If this is the first time you're tuning in, hit the replay land, hit the share button. Let's get the message out. I love adding value, and I love doing these things for you guys because I believe in you, and I want the life you want and you deserve. Talk to you guys out. Peace.